Okay, so we've heard a lot about connected commerce, connected apps, the DeFi ecosystem. And so now I'm very pleased to welcome the founder of API Days, Mehdi Medjaoui. And Mehdi, um, great to see you again. It
Yeah,
seems
great to see you again,
like
John.
I only see you on these conferences, by the way. We're going to have to change that. I'll have to
We have
come to
we have to change that. I
Paris.
agree.
Okay, so Mehdi, a lot has been happening in the API space, and uh, I'm struggling to keep track of it. Can you tell me what is in the API tooling landscape now?
Yes, let's do it. That's the goal of the presentation, based on the report we do now every quarterly on API industry, the state of the market. Let's say that the more than 1,000 tools you need to understand, but also to share about the current API mindset in 2022. And so this presentation is completely updated for Apidays India. So again, for people who wants to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Medjaoui, or follow what API Days is doing. You will be able to know about next conferences and be keep up to date for the API economy at all. My latest publication, so I'm co-author of a book about continuous API management, and also policy reports on European regulation there. And also I'm glad to announce that the second version of the book has been just out a few months ago, continuous API management second version. We need to version APIs, we need to version books on APIs. That's why we have a second edition. And so what I will be talking with you today is about like the summary of the API industry in 2022. First, what's the API mindset and the current state of API management? How regulation are enforcing the publishing of and the use of APIs? How some industries like banking, healthcare, supply chain, insurance are definitely now API driven and API first. We will see also how API security and privacy are now standalone product in the API industry. We will finish by saying that APIs are the new business infrastructure and the new technical stack. So many new software are delivered directly via an API, not waiting for a UI, and that are really the building bricks of the current software stack. And we will finish by a point on the no-code, low-code revolution, and how company can welcome citizen developers, so people who are able to build application using no-code, but who are not developers, so no-coder, right? So first, let's dive on the API mindset in 2022. I will try to describe it in three main ideas. The first one is like, let's remind an API, of course, is an interface, software interface, but is as much exposing capabilities as much as hiding complexity. And sometimes we forget the hiding complexity aspect. Nobody wants to see what's happening in the backend. When you go to a restaurant, you just want to see the menu, you see the waiter or the waitress, you want to feel a dining experience. You don't want to see what's happening in the backend. Your interface to the kitchen, to the backend, is the menu of what you can order. And that's the most important. What I can get, what I will receive. That's the interface to the backend. And so so the kitchen wants to expose only what they want you to order. They could do a lot more. But no, they made a design selection to make you live the best dining experience. So this is why sometimes you have only 5 meals, 10 meals, whatever, but they could do 1,000. But no, they select because they have the customer experience in mind. So when you design API, think about that. What do we expose, but what do we hide? And that's how you can really make great software and great businesses by reducing complexity, by delivering interfaces that just focus on the capability you want to deliver. I love this Lego advertisement because for me, it's exactly what I was saying before. We build building bricks. So we build bricks who have no shape, the shape of the brick, but who have no different shapes. But it's the user who will put the representation into the brick. Like you see on the left, it's a dinosaur. In the middle, it's a plane. It could be a bird. On the right, it's a tank. It could be a car. It could be a boat. It could be whatever you want. It's you see the value in what others have produced, the technological bricks they have made. You import it into your own business. So again, it's as much what you expose as much as what you hide. The second idea I want to really share is that embedded is a lot stronger than open. We've heard about open banking for open APIs and stuff like that, but many managers don't want to be open. being open is losing at some point, right? Losing assets, losing data, losing information, losing competitive advantage. But when you think about opening APIs, not just to be open, but to be embedded in third-party people and third-party applications and companies, now you're colonizing IT systems, right? And that's the challenge of what we call reuse versus use. You will see it's a lot harder to design something for people to reuse than design something for just people to use. When you will give tools for someone to build something, it's a lot harder because you have to explain the tools and explain what they can do with the tools. When you just have something, just imagine delivering a house to someone, just live in it. Delivering the bricks, the tools, the machines to build other houses, you have to make a lot of design effort. But this is also the opportunity because in the 2000 we said to be digital you needed websites. In 2010 you need mobile applications, but now you have APIs to be in everybody else's website and everybody else's mobile application. It's about colonizing horizontally everyone with your value proposition. If you are an SMS API, your goal is to be embedded in every application. If you are a payment API, if you are a weather data API, your goal is to be everywhere embedded where it makes sense to have your capability integrated. And that's the scale. This is why we don't build UIs, because not everybody will have a different application to see weather. I want to see weather in my Google Maps, for example. I want to see weather in my calendar. I want to see weather in my maybe shopping app or whatever. Weather is not a full app by itself. It could be, but the huge challenge is to be colonizing everywhere else where weather should be. And it's the same for banking, for insurance, for supply chain, for retail. We want to embed our value proposition everywhere. And that's why API companies are overperforming in terms of scale. I love this picture. You will see a lot, but the whole supply chain industry, the goal is to be embedded in everybody else. You build wheels, your goal is to be embedded in everybody else's cars. This is how you will reach the market, and sometimes you can build wheels on your own, but most of the time they are delivered with the car. So if you want to really scale production, think supply chain, think how you can be a part of the global supply chain, digital supply chain with the API you provide. Internally for your internal applications or externally for external partners and customers. So the reach will completely changing. So the reach is bigger with APIs, but distribution channels have diminishing returns. We used to have mobile channels, web channels, but then we have partner integrations and other integrations, so that we had to monitor all in once, and we have to make specific software for each. That was really complex. But now imagine with APIs, you are able to onboard everyone in a self-service manner. Everybody comes to you, integrate what you have, and embed your value proposition. It may seem that the long tail is actually your main channel. So if you are able to orchestrate the long tail of your ecosystem, you may actually be competing with the best, and that will be your main channel at the end. So don't think multi-channel, omni-channel, but the long tail is sometimes, in a word, really fragmented, is sometimes not more significant in terms of channels. And if you are able to orchestrate it, you will be winning your community. So APIs helps in orchestrating that, but you have to understand that yes, this important aspect of APIs of letting people use in self-service and reuse is more important than just use and build the software with the UI and everything. The last point I want to share about the mindset really for you to understand what we will see on the landscape part is that don't think what's the best business model for APIs, but what are the best APIs for your business model. That's really key. That's really key. And again, just an example, Marshall Van Aslin, or co-author of the book Platform Revolution, made a study about 100 companies worth more than $2 billion, right? So it's not startups, right? It's really companies who are publicly traded. And he made this study about the impact of API informed performance. And what do we find is that companies who have a strong and high API adoption internally and externally have in average 12% higher valuation. Sometimes no more profit, sometimes no more revenue, but let's say the market anticipate that these companies are future platforms, future marketplaces, that they will accumulate value over time because people come, integrate what they do, and re-embed it. like they're colonizing the market. And so investors, they can make good or bad decisions, but at least they anticipate that these companies are the leaders of tomorrow. So sometimes you want to monetize APIs, that's great. It makes sense for a lot of software, but sometimes having APIs that enables you to be a marketplace, to be a platform, because people will come and embed what you have to their own community, can increase your reach, can increase your value. And I just take the example of the Salesforce CRM. The Salesforce CRM is great, but there are other great CRM. But Salesforce has the power of the Salesforce App Exchange, 5,000 applications, of course, available via the Salesforce API. That makes not just a CRM, it's a complete business solution. It's a complete sales, marketing, whatever solution, and with always application for the right fit. So it's not about the feature CRM versus CRM, it's about the ecosystem of application versus features. And you know what? It wins all the time. The ecosystem is always stronger than features, because we can add features, but building an ecosystem takes longer, and you need APIs for that. So again, always think what's the best business model for APIs. Always think what are the best API for a business model, not the best business model for APIs. So that was for the mindset. Really, these three elements are extremely important. Now let's dive into the landscape. So you will be able to see the landscape on API, landscape.apiscene.io. But yes, it's this more than 1,000 tools that compose the API landscape. And actually, these tools are, look like the supply chain I told you. But these tools are decomposed into 5 categories. The first one is the API lifecycle platforms, how we manage APIs from design to test, to design, development, testing, deployment, monitoring, management, security, versioning, promotion, all this stuff, right? The second one is the backend business tools, like how do some people delegate the full API building and deployment and everything into like backend where it can be, the API is really hosted as a third party. The third one is what we call APIs as a product, like APIs that just one business function that you can integrate as an API, and so you can focus on your core business. Some people call it business process as a service. The fourth is the integration platform as a service, like huge SDK, huge platform that helps you to integrate third-party APIs seamlessly in your system. And the fifth is what we call API aggregators, API abstractions, like one API to hide complexity of such industry, and so you can integrate with just one API, and actually you integrate with many behind the scene. All of this represent today a valuation of $174 billion, mostly on API lifecycle platforms and business processes as a service. But yeah, we can see, we'll dive more into that to explain you what's going on. We've identified 5 trends extremely important to understand about this landscape. The first one is like API management has become a commodity. It has become a commodity, but the overall market is growing, like almost at 30% compound annual growth rate per year. It's really high. So this is why we see so many flourishing companies in API management with strong actors. But we see also we have seen a lot of consolidation. So this is the example of all the acquisition that have been made by software vendors. You can see there is a lot of consolidation, small actors acquired by big actors who wanted to position themselves on the API management industry, because every big software player, cloud vendor, needs to have great API management solution. It also leads to new open source opportunities. So we've seen some companies like really scaling and being really successful on open source. We can name Gravity, Kong, Nginx, Solo.io, 3Scale acquired by Red Hat, Tyke, WSO2. So these open source solutions are really growing with a lot of adoption, raising a lot of money from investors and a lot of adoption by users. So yeah, this what we call the commoditization of the API management market enabled this new open source aspect, because these companies found that open source was the solution to attract users. Another trend is the regulation. So we take an example with banking. This is an example of all the regulation obliging to open APIs for banks. So India has also its own regulation, and many other countries have regulation in place obliging banks to open APIs. So when you have to, by regulation, you have to implement. And so many products, many tools are there for open banking. I also want to say there also healthcare is coming with the FHIR regulation, the FIRE standard, with other regulation about healthcare in the US, in Europe, and coming in Asia too. And also data protection regulation. So the first one, most known, was GDPR, but in India, you have the Personal Data Protection Bill that has been delayed, but it's coming, right? It's really coming in full featured. So yeah, and that will oblige to understand what's going on, deliver data to users via APIs and everything. So yes, be sure that that you have APIs prepared for that. And so yeah, the last 3 months trends in Europe, in the United States, in Brazil, in India too, like many news about like regulation obliging to open APIs, where APIs is explicitly mentioned as a way to deliver. Another trend is that the industry-specific solution. So because we have regulation obliging to open APIs, the market is having specific solutions. In the landscape, we have identified more than 100 tools dedicated to banking, finance, assurance, or some API aggregators just for banking, just to tell you. So it's really a market trend. And yes, and some API management vendors have positioned themselves on this. Axway just have an open banking platform in Brazil. Gravity, just financial grade API into their solution. Even WSO2 in Sri Lanka has received funding from Goldman Sachs to extend banking and finance specific open source feature set for API management. Just to tell you, yeah. And it's the same for banking, government, but also insurance. I invite you to see the Open Insurance Initiative for insurers to open APIs more in a more coherent way. And yes, and other players, other tools are dedicated for API management in the last 3 months, just for these industries. So again, industry specific, and it makes sense when it's commoditized. At some point, the specialization is a way to get back margin. Another trend is the API security. So you may heard about the DevSecOps approach, like putting security as much as we can into the developer environment as much as we can. And so we see that there is really an API security arms racing up. I'll just share some names of some companies who are raising a lot of money just doing API security on top of current API management, because new threats that API management have issues to cover with just like a WAF, web application frameworks. And so yeah, these companies are pure players API security solution. And we can see that even in the studies that privacy and personal data is now a part of this security solution. So yeah, it's probably the next trend. So privacy will be key in the next trend. So security is now a standalone part of the industry, and privacy is the next one. Almost at the end of our trends, but APIs are a new layer of business infrastructure. I love this quote from Jeff Lawson from Trillium. The world is getting broken down into APIs. Every part of the stack of a business that the developer might need to build is eventually turning into APIs that developer can use. This is the map we said. Again, always the same picture. Here you can see a payment API, Maps API, SMS API, background checking for employees API, like social media APIs, whatever, to collect data and everything. So again, what's my question today is how are you in this part? And in the landscape, you can see we have almost 400 businesses processes service, but there are so many others. We just put the main ones just for managers to understand that now there is an API for that. Whatever business process you do, there is probably an API for that done by someone else. Some companies have been really successful in doing one thing really well. So Stripe, Twilio, ADN, Plaid for banking, SendGrid, Avalara for tax. Every business process is getting APIfied. We see also new open standards. Every industry to scale needs a convention and standards. So we see a lot of API descriptions like Open API specification, APIscene API specification, gRPC, JSON schema, GraphQL, many open standards to deliver APIs at scale. That makes the new stack, the new open standardized stack for APIs. This is an example for banking as a service. So this is a great representation from Asian consulting company who say that, look, you can build banks. Actually, many fintechs are just building bricks assembled by APIs of different capabilities. And so a bank at the end is just different bricks assembled together to deliver value at the end. So if you think API, you think building bricks, and you think supply chain. Last trend I want to share is the no-code aspect. The last trend, so you may know some tools like Zapier, Retool, AppSheet that they enable non-technical people to build workflows and application and business application. Just want to share that, for example, last 3 months in the US, they had no code day, right? So to celebrate no code. And now some companies are getting boot camps for no code, right? So when you can't train an engineer for 2, 3, 4 years, you can train a business manager to use no code, of course, enabled by APIs behind the scene, but in 2, 3, 4 months, not years, to be able to make business applications. So the shadow IT movement is highly reduced. Now the IT can include the no-code aspect into the stack, into security. And so the citizen developers don't stop to hire side IT consulting companies to do side projects out of the IT system and security and governance. Now they can do it in the no-code aspect. So the no-code aspect is really a revolution. And I love the joke of, we have developer who code and developer who no code, right? So it's a funny quote from a CIO I've met recently. So we have reached our time. Just to finish, again, API management is growing fast, but it's a community creating new open source communities. Regulation enforcing and publishing the use of APIs for many different industries, and especially for data protection, that makes the specialization as a new way to make margin and new tools for API management, especially in banking, healthcare, insurance, supply chain. Because of rapid post-COVID digitization, security is now a standalone product on top of existing management with dozens of new tools. APIs still are a business process as a service, as a building brick for infrastructure, and still many companies now think API first when they build a product. And last but not least, now company needs to onboard citizen developers because they are the next API user and consumers on top of developers. Thank you very much. And yeah, John, I'm glad to see if we have any questions.
Mehdi, great. So much there. I think I have it a bit clearer, but it's still a very complex and it's changing all the time. That was just a 3-month update. And if I look at the report that was 3 months ago, then there's been a lot new that's happened. So it just keeps going.
Yeah, every landscape is obsolete the day you publish it. And so this one has more than 1,000 companies, so it's still the same idea. But yes, every public landscape is obsolete once you publish it, and the goal is to give these updates. But at least if you are just 3 months late on the market, thanks to our work, it's good. Your competitors are probably 3 years late, so it's okay to be 3 months late.
Yeah. So actually, this is a perfect way to summarize what we've covered today, because we started the day talking about the digitalization of healthcare and then heavy industry like the chemical industry, and we looked more at data-driven business with healthcare again and other industries, and we partner ecosystems and the best way of building those partner ecosystems, and then the last couple of presentations more on the future of Web3. And we also on the technical stage and in the workshops looked at things like API design and the how you build the data tech stack, data in motion, and it always seems to be it's in motion, and we need to be able to manage how that takes place, how that whole life cycle comes from the raw source through to the insights that we can action. And also about managing these platforms, because they are becoming this complexity. We need to keep hiding more of this complexity with APIs, and we saw some great examples of how to achieve that. I guess I'd be curious as to your perspective of what you've seen today, and also what you know of how India is really accelerating with this.
Yeah, so the first thing, how to use that landscape. This landscape is trying to find always the best tool that are probably available on the market to be part of this global supply chain. Sometimes you have developed your own internal tools, but it's great to also to have tools that are recognized by the whole, let's say, supply chain, digital supply chain. And also to say, I often take the comparison with two restaurants. Just imagine you have the best restaurant close to your building, but there is always the experience. The food is great, but the experience is really bad. There is long waiting lines, and so you always go to that really average restaurant, not really good, but where it's easy. And so if you have the best service, capability, data, be sure you transform into a great experience, because don't make people go with a competitor that do less valuable work or capabilities, but because it's more easy to adopt, it's more easy to integrate, it's better documented. So invest in your excellence. And these toolings can help you to invest in this excellence, to have practices, standard platforms that are recognized by the industry as an affordance. So nobody's afraid of what you've built. But India, yeah, it's true that, so India is really, really strong on the financial sector, really strong bank, Kotak Bank, ICICI, HDFC, and Indian public banks. So this really drives a lot, and the fact that so many mobile first application and systems, and also really the power of the government, the Indian stack idea with Aadhaar, identity base is also a part that really makes India a place where the API economy can really deliver. It's a large country with lot of with its own issues, but at least on the API side, digital side, and the ability to deliver APIs to be embedded into everyone application, mobile phone, or website, yeah, it's an opportunity. And the financial sector has learned a lot. The financial sector has learned a lot and can be a light for other industries to follow what has been done.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great way to introduce tomorrow's agenda, because tomorrow's agenda is all about open finance in India. And we're going to hear from some great speakers who will talk about how banking is transforming, as well as payments. And you mentioned the India stack, and UPI is a significant part of that, also as an enabler for lots of innovation in financial services. And we're also, it's the InsurTech stack is evolving in India as well. And but we're also going to hear from some of those banks you mentioned about how you manage the complexity in such a country, such a large population. And we talk about millions of people. We look at a city like Mumbai has a bigger population than many countries, and the digitalization of the data itself creates a lot of data to manage. So we're going to hear from banks who are leading in building architectures that can manage that complexity. So
yeah, but a large population is a great responsibility, but a great responsibility is great power comes with a great responsibility, right? And so definitely, but this is why scale is important, and this is why when whatever government builds something, a national bank or national insurer or national social media or retail application at such a scale that a country like India, it needs to be embedded really, really fast. And in all user mobile phone application, feature phone, when it's possible, it needs to be embedded as much as possible. Traditional channels are stronger when the size of the country is smaller, more coherent, the population is smaller. But when it's such a scale with such a let's say cultural, differences in some parts, language or whatever, yeah, the embedding strategy is more important than ever. So again, this large country, large population like China, India is a great power, comes with great responsibility, but the ability to deliver and embed everywhere is key into delivering the service where it needs to be and serving the customer or serving the citizen.
Great. And we're going to learn more about how firms are facing that challenge and that opportunity tomorrow. So thanks very much for helping us to close out day one of API Days India 2022.
Thank you, John, for having me, and see you tomorrow.
Yep. See you, everyone.